The massive ship floated in the dark space above Earth, inside its crystal walls. Council Prime Vexstar stood before a large screen showing the blue planet below. His tall gray form moved with the grace of a being who had lived for 3,000 years. Around him, other alien leaders from across the galaxy watched and waited. "Look at this pathetic world," Vexstar said, his voice echoing in the great hall. "These humans fight each other every day. They poison their own air and water. They cannot even leave their planet without our help." The other aliens nodded in agreement. Admiral Cathvalium, commander of the Zephyrian War Fleet, stepped forward. His 6 arms moved as he spoke, each gesture showing his confidence. "My scouts have watched them for 50 of their years," Cathvalium said. "They have primitive weapons. Their fastest ships barely reach their own moon. When we show them our power, they will run like scared animals." On the screen, Earth continued to spin slowly. Cities glowed like tiny dots of light. The aliens could see the human military bases, the airports, the naval fleets. Everything looked so small and weak compared to their mighty ships. Far below, on Earth, Commander Jake Morrison sat in his small office at NASA headquarters in Houston. The room was filled with papers, coffee cups, and computer screens showing data from space. Jake rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the message on his main screen for the 100th time. The message had arrived. 3 days ago. It came from space, written in perfect English. Jake still could not believe what it said. "People of Earth," the message began. "We are the Zephyrian Empire. We have watched your world and found it suitable for our needs. You have 36 hours to leave your planet. Take your ships and go to other worlds. If you stay, we will remove you by force. This is not a request. This is a warning." Dr. Lisa Grant walked into Jake's office, carrying more coffee and a stack of reports. She was a smart woman who had worked with alien signals for many years, but she had never seen anything like this. "Any word from Washington?" Lisa asked, setting down the coffee. Jake shook his head. "President Carter is meeting with world leaders right now. The military is going crazy, trying to figure out what to do." Lisa sat down and looked at the message again. "They really think we'll just pack up and leave the whole planet?" "That's what it sounds like," Jake said. He pulled up another screen, showing pictures the aliens had sent. Their ships were huge, bigger than any city on Earth. The weapons they had demonstrated could destroy mountains with a single shot. 3 days ago, the aliens had shown their power by destroying an old space station that humans had abandoned years before. The station was gone in seconds, turned to dust by a beam of light. Then they had targeted a small asteroid and made it disappear completely. The message was clear: resist and die. In the crystal ship above Earth, Vexstar reviewed the intelligence reports his scouts had gathered. The files showed human wars, pollution, and primitive technology. The humans had nuclear weapons, but these were toys compared to Zephyrian power. Their armies were divided by borders and politics. Their air force was slow and limited. "They are not even a real threat," said General Morval, another alien leader. "Our shields can stop anything they have. Our weapons can destroy their cities from space. They know this." "Yes," Vexstar agreed. "But I want to understand their response. Our scouts report strange activity around their military bases. What are they planning?" Admiral Cathvalium laughed, a sound like metal scraping against stone. "Planning? They are probably fighting among themselves about who gets to use the escape ships first. These creatures are selfish and weak." Back on Earth, President Helen Carter sat in the White House Situation Room with leaders from around the world. The room was filled with screens showing military bases, world leaders, and generals from every major nation. Everyone looked worried and tired. General Ryan Brooks stood at the front of the room with charts and pictures. He was a tough man who had fought in many wars, but he had never faced anything like this. "Here's what we know," General Brooks said. The alien fleet has 47 major ships. Each one is about 10 miles long. They have weapons that can destroy anything we have. Their shields are stronger than anything in our science books. The president looked around the room at the faces on the screens. Options, she asked. We could try to negotiate, suggested the Prime Minister of Britain. With what? Asked the President of Russia. They told us to leave. They did not ask to talk. General Brooks pulled up more pictures. Our best nuclear submarines could maybe damage one of their smaller ships, but they would destroy us before we got close. Our fighter jets cannot even reach them. What about evacuation? Asked the Chancellor of Germany. How many people could we move to other planets? Dr. Lisa Grant, who was watching from NASA, spoke up through the video link. With our current technology, we could maybe move a few thousand people to Mars or the Moon, but that would take years. We have 36 hours. The room went quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. There was nowhere to run. Earth was home to 8 billion people, and there was no way to save them all. Above Earth, the alien fleet waited patiently. They had given the same ultimatum to 12 other worlds in the past. Sometimes the planet's people tried to fight. Sometimes they begged for mercy. But they always surrendered in the end. Vexstar looked at his advisors. Begin the final countdown. In 30 hours, we start the cleansing process. This world will be ours. But something was beginning to happen on Earth that the aliens did not expect. In research labs and military bases, in small towns and big cities, humans were starting to make a choice. They were not going to run. They were not going to beg. They were going to fight. Dr. Amy Foster could not sleep. For 2 days, she had been studying every piece of information about the alien ships. Her office at MIT was covered with papers, computer screens, and empty pizza boxes. She was looking for something that everyone else had missed. Amy was not a military person. She was a scientist who studied how energy worked. But when she looked at the pictures of the alien ships, she saw something interesting. Lisa, you need to see this, Amy said into her phone. She was calling Dr. Lisa Grant at NASA. What did you find? Lisa asked. She sounded tired. Nobody had been sleeping much. The alien shields, Amy said, pointing at her computer screen, even though Lisa could not see it. Look at how they work. They use energy in a pattern, but every pattern has a weak spot. Amy had been studying the video of the alien weapons test. When they destroyed the space station, their shields had flickered for just a moment. It was only a few seconds, but Amy had seen it. The shields turn on and off in cycles, Amy explained. They have to, or they would use too much power. If we can find the right frequency, we might be able to disrupt them. Lisa was quiet for a moment. Amy, even if you're right, we don't have weapons that can reach them. Maybe we don't need to reach them, Amy said. Maybe we can make them come to us. Meanwhile, in a small garage in Detroit, Tony Martinez was working on something that should not have been possible. Tony fixed cars for a living, but he also loved to build things. Next to him, Kate Williams was drawing plans on a large piece of paper. Kate was an aerospace engineer who had lost her job when the space program was cut, but now, with the aliens coming, her skills were needed again. This is crazy, Tony said, looking at the plans. You want me to put rocket engines on a fighter jet? Not just rocket engines, Kate said. Look at this design. We take the engine from a missile, modify it, and attach it to the bottom of the plane. It won't last long, but it might get us high enough. Tony wiped the grease off his hands. High enough for what? Kate pointed to the alien ships on her tablet. High enough to hit them around the world. Similar conversations were happening. In hidden rooms and secret meetings, humans were sharing ideas that their governments had not approved. Scientists were working with soldiers. Engineers were working with mechanics. People who had never met were sharing their knowledge through the internet. General Brooks was supposed to be planning the evacuation. But instead, he found himself in a secret meeting with people who refused to give up. The meeting was in an old military bunker beneath Washington, D.C. "This is treason," said Colonel Frank Miller, one of the officers present. "We have direct orders to prepare for evacuation." "Evacuation to where?" asked Lieutenant Claire Brooks, the general's daughter. She was a fighter pilot who had volunteered for what everyone called a suicide mission. "There is nowhere to go. We either fight or we die." Claire stood in front of a group of pilots who had also volunteered. There was Danny Park, a young pilot from California, Michelle Torres, who had flown combat missions in 3 different wars, Steve Campbell, who was supposed to retire next month but had decided to stay. "The alien ships are big," Claire said, "but big things move slowly. Our jets are small and fast. If we can get close enough, we might be able to damage them." "With what weapons?" asked Danny. He was nervous but determined. "Dr. Foster thinks she found a weakness in their shields," General Brooks said. "If she's right, our missiles might work, but we need to get them close enough to the alien ships." The general looked around the room. "I want everyone to understand what this means. This is not a military operation. This is not approved by any government. If you do this, you are acting on your own." "Good," said Michelle Torres. "I'm tired of asking permission to defend my home." Above Earth, the alien fleet continued to wait. Admiral Cathvolume was reviewing reports from his scouts. The reports showed increased activity around human military bases, but nothing that worried him. "They are moving their primitive aircraft," reported Scout Commander Velanara. "But their weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Their missiles cannot reach us." Cathvolume nodded. "They are probably preparing a show of resistance before they surrender. Let them waste their ammunition. It will make the conquest easier." But the Admiral was wrong about what the humans were preparing in secret facilities around the world. People were working on projects that had never been tried before. Dr. Chris Patterson, a former NASA engineer, was coordinating with teams in 12 countries. They were using research equipment to build weapons. Particle accelerators that had been used to study atoms were being modified to fire energy beams. Radio telescopes were being turned into targeting systems. "We don't need to match their technology," Chris explained to his team during a video conference. "We just need to be different enough to surprise them." The humans were learning that their weakness could be their strength. The aliens expected them to fight like other advanced civilizations. But humans did not have advanced civilization weapons. They had creativity and desperation. In underground bunkers, retired teacher Betty Coleman was organizing supply lines. She had taught school for 30 years and knew how to get people to work together. Now she was using those skills to coordinate food and equipment for the resistance. "We need more copper wire," she said into a radio. "And coffee. Lots of coffee. These people haven't slept in days." In a computer lab in San Francisco, teenager Marcus Lee was working with his friends to hack into satellite systems around the world. Marcus was 17 years old and had been programming computers since he was 8. "We need a way for everyone to talk to each other," Marcus said to his friend. "The aliens might cut our normal communications." They were creating a hidden network that could not be detected or stopped. It would allow the resistance fighters to coordinate their attacks without the aliens knowing. As the hours passed, something amazing was happening. Countries that had been enemies were sharing their best technology. Scientists were giving away secrets they had spent their lives discovering. Ordinary people were risking everything to help strangers. The spark of human resistance was spreading faster than the aliens had thought possible. They had studied human history and seen the wars, the divisions, the hatred between different groups. But they had not understood what happened when humans faced extinction. When threatened with complete destruction, humans did not panic. They did not surrender. They united. Dr. Amy Foster made her final calculations and sent them to resistance groups around the world. The alien shields operated on a specific frequency. If human weapons could be modified to match that frequency, they might be able to penetrate the shields. It was a long shot. The modifications would be difficult and dangerous. Many of the weapons would probably explode when they were fired, but it was the only chance humanity had. The aliens had given Earth 36 hours to surrender. 24 hours had passed. In 12 more hours, the invasion would begin. But the aliens were about to learn something about humanity that they had not expected. When humans were told they could not win, they did not give up. They got creative. The alien fleet hung in space like a collection of deadly stars. Each ship was a masterpiece of crystal and metal, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Admiral Cathfolium stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth turn slowly below. Final countdown begins now, Cathfolium announced to his fleet. In 6 hours, we begin the cleansing. All resistance will be eliminated. The Admiral expected to see panic on the planet below. Instead, his sensors showed something strange. The humans were not running away. They were gathering together. "Admiral," said Scout Commander Velanara, "the humans are moving all their military forces into position, but their formations make no sense." Cathvalam looked at the tactical display. Human naval ships were surfacing in oceans around the world. Their aircraft were taking off from bases on every continent. Even their space station was showing increased activity. "They cannot reach us with those primitive machines," Cathfolium said. "Are they planning some kind of suicide attack?" "Perhaps," Velanara replied, "but our sensors detect strange energy readings from their research facilities. They appear to be modifying their weapons." The Admiral laughed. "Modifying toys does not make them dangerous. Begin the descent. We will crush their resistance quickly." On Earth, Captain Ben Rodriguez stood in a converted physics laboratory that had been turned into a weapons control center. Around him, scientists and engineers worked frantically to complete their modifications. "Power levels are stable," reported Dr. Patterson from his station. "We have successfully connected 17 particle accelerators across 4 continents." Ben had been a weapons specialist in the army before becoming an engineer. He understood both fighting and building things. What they were building now was unlike anything that had ever been tried. "Remember," Ben said to his team, "we only get one shot at this. The energy feedback will probably destroy most of our equipment after the first firing." The plan was simple and desperate. Using research equipment from universities around the world, they had created a network of energy weapons. The weapons were not powerful enough to destroy the alien ships, but Dr. Foster believed they could disrupt the shields. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Colonel Mary Sullivan was coordinating with resistance cells that had formed in secret around the world. Her command center was hidden in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath New York City. "Phoenix team, report," Mary said into her radio. "This is Jack Porter in London," came the reply. "Our modifications are complete. The Royal Navy has 12 submarines, ready with modified torpedoes." "Tiger team, status?" Mary asked. "Nina Rodriguez in Tokyo," came another voice. "Japanese self-defense forces report ready. Modified missiles are loaded, and targeting systems are online." Mary looked at her map, showing resistance cells around the world. There were hundreds of them now, all connected by Marcus Lee's hidden communication network. Soldiers worked with scientists. Teenagers worked with generals. People who had never spoken to each other were now fighting for the same cause. "Eagle team?" Mary asked. "Alex Chen in Beijing," came the reply. "Chinese military reports ready. Warning, our modifications are highly unstable. Estimate 50% failure rate on firing." That was the problem with all their weapons. The modifications were untested and dangerous. Many would probably explode when fired. Many pilots would not survive their missions. But it was the only chance they had. High above Earth, the alien ships began to descend. They moved slowly and gracefully, their crystal holes gleaming in the sunlight. To anyone watching from the ground, they looked unstoppable. Lieutenant Claire Brooks sat in the cockpit of her modified fighter jet. The plane had been changed so much that it barely looked like the original design. Rocket engines had been strapped to the bottom. The missiles had been replaced with experimental weapons based on Dr. Foster's frequency calculations. Dragon Squadron. This is Dragon Leader, Claire said into her radio. Final systems check. Dragon 2 ready, came Danny Park's voice. He was flying off her left wing. Dragon 3 ready, said Michelle Torres from her right. Dragon 4 ready, reported Steve Campbell. Behind them, dozens of other modified aircraft were taking off from hidden airfields around the world. Most of the pilots knew they would not survive the mission. But they also knew that if they did, everyone would die anyway. The alien ships continued their descent, moving into the upper atmosphere. Admiral Kethfalium watched the human military activity with amusement. Look at them, he said to his officers. They think their tiny aircraft can harm us. Activate all weapons systems. We will destroy their resistance in minutes. But as the alien ships moved lower, something unexpected happened. The energy readings that Velinara had detected suddenly spiked to enormous levels. Admiral. Velinara called out in alarm. Massive energy surge from the planet's surface. Around the world, Captain Rodriguez's network of modified particle accelerators fired simultaneously. Beams of energy shot up from 17 different locations, all calibrated to the exact frequency that Dr. Foster had calculated. The beams struck the alien shields, and something amazing happened. The shields, which had seemed invincible, began to flicker and fail. Impossible, Admiral Kethfalium shouted. Our shields are impenetrable. Not to these frequencies, Velinara reported, his voice filled with shock. The humans somehow found our shield harmonic. Sections of our defensive grid are failing. The aliens had never encountered this type of attack before. Their shields were designed to stop the most advanced energy weapons in the galaxy. But human technology was not advanced. It was different. And that difference was making it deadly. Lieutenant Claire Brooks saw the alien shields flickering and knew this was their only chance. Dragon Squadron, attack, she commanded. Her modified fighter jet screamed upward, its rocket engines pushing it higher than any human aircraft had ever flown. Behind her, pilots from around the world followed in their own modified planes. The aliens tried to fire their weapons, but their targeting systems were designed for space combat against large ships. The small, fast human aircraft were hard to track. Danny Park's missile struck an alien ship just as its shield failed completely. The explosion was small compared to the size of the ship, but it did something the aliens had not expected. It damaged them. We hurt them, Danny shouted over the radio. The weapons work. Around the world, the human resistance launched their coordinated attack. Modified submarines fired torpedoes with experimental warheads. Ground-based missiles shot upward carrying payloads designed to exploit the shield failures. Even the International Space Station had been equipped with modified equipment that fired directly at the alien fleet. Admiral Kethfalium watched in disbelief as his mighty fleet took damage from primitive human weapons. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being hurt by creatures who could barely leave their own planet. How is this possible? He demanded. Their technology is unlike anything in our databases, Velinara reported. Our shields are configured to stop energy weapons and exotic matter, but they are using chemical explosives, kinetic projectiles, and frequency disruption weapons. Our defenses were never designed for this type of attack. The humans were fighting unlike any enemy the aliens had ever faced. Instead of trying to match alien technology, they were using their own primitive weapons in ways that no advanced civilization would think of. Michelle Torres flew her damaged fighter directly at an alien ship, firing everything she had. Her plane was falling apart, but she managed to hit the ship's hull just as its shields failed again. Steve Campbell's aircraft exploded when his modified engines overloaded, but not before he delivered his payload to an alien cruiser. All around Earth, humans were discovering that their greatest weakness was also their greatest strength. They were primitive, desperate, and completely unpredictable. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire was learning what it meant to be afraid. The battle was not going as Admiral Kethvalium had planned. 3 of his ships were badly damaged, and the human attacks were getting stronger. The small fighters that he had dismissed as toys were now swarming around his fleet like angry insects. Retreat. To higher orbit, Kethvalium commanded. We need time to reconfigure our shields. But as the alien ships tried to climb back into space, they discovered that the humans had prepared for this too. Dr. Patterson's satellite network activated, revealing weapons platforms that had been hidden among the space debris. Commander Jake Morrison coordinated the defense from his hidden command center deep beneath the Colorado Mountains. The room was filled with screens showing the battle happening above Earth. Next to him sat commanders from around the world who had once been enemies. All units, this is Control, Jake spoke into his radio. The aliens are trying to retreat. Do not let them regroup. Colonel Pavel Volkov from Russia was working beside General Li Wei from China. In any other time, these 2 men would have been suspicious of each other. Now they shared information freely. Russian submarines report direct hits on the alien flagship, Pavel announced. Chinese missile batteries confirm secondary explosions on target ships, Li Wei added. British Admiral James Hughes looked up from his tactical display. Our Royal Air Force pilots report the aliens are having trouble targeting our aircraft. Their weapons seem designed for larger targets. Jake nodded. This was exactly what Dr. Foster had predicted. The aliens had built their weapons to fight other advanced civilizations with large ships and predictable tactics. They were not prepared for swarms of small, fast aircraft using primitive but effective weapons. Lieutenant Claire Brooks was leading the aerial assault despite having lost half her squadron. Her fighter jet was damaged and running low on fuel, but she could see that the aliens were in trouble. All pilots, this is Dragon Leader, she called over the radio. The big ship in the center is their flagship. If we can bring it down, the others might retreat. Roger, Dragon Leader, came the voice of Sarah Kim, a pilot from South Korea. Dragon 7 moving to attack position. Joe Thompson, flying for the Canadian Air Force, reported in. Dragon 9 has visual on the target. Their shields are down on the port side. Maria Santos from Brazil was flying with a damaged engine, but refused to turn back. Dragon 12 ready for final run. The human pilots knew they were outmatched in every way except one. They had nothing left to lose. The aliens could retreat to other worlds. But Earth was the only home humanity had ever known. Captain Kate Williams had survived the explosion of her modified fighter and was now coordinating ground-based attacks from a mobile command post. Her expertise in aerospace engineering had helped design many of the modifications that were keeping the human forces in the fight. Tony, status report. Kate called to Tony Martinez, who was managing the weapons modifications at a facility in Detroit. We're running out of equipment, Tony replied over the radio. Most of our particle accelerators burned out after the first firing, but we have backup systems coming online. Kate looked at her tactical screen. The humans were winning, but barely. Their weapons were failing, their aircraft were being destroyed, and they were running out of ammunition. But somehow, they were still fighting. The alien flagship, Kethval's pride and joy, shuddered under another human attack. The ship was magnificent, designed to inspire fear and awe in primitive species. But the humans seemed immune to fear. Admiral, Scout Commander Velanara reported, we have lost contact with 7 ships. 3 more are severely damaged and requesting permission to retreat. Kethvalium could not believe what he was hearing. His fleet had conquered dozens of worlds. They had never faced real resistance before. Other species either surrendered immediately or fought with predictable tactics that were easily countered. "These humans are insane," Kethvalium muttered. "They are using weapons that should not work against us." "Perhaps that is why they work," Velinara suggested quietly. The Admiral turned to stare at his subordinate. The idea that primitive weapons could be more effective than advanced ones went against everything the Zephyrian Empire believed. On Earth, the Resistance was pushing forward with everything they had. Lieutenant Colonel Mary Sullivan was coordinating attacks from her command center when she received an unexpected message. "Command, this is Dr. Foster," came Amy's voice over the radio. "I've been analyzing the alien ship designs. I think I know how to bring down their flagship." "Go ahead, Doctor," Mary replied. "The big ship has a power core in the center," Amy explained. "If we can get a nuclear weapon close enough to it, the explosion might cause a chain reaction." Mary looked at her tactical display. "Our missiles can't penetrate their armor." "They don't need to," Amy said. "We just need to get inside the ship." The plan was desperate, even by human standards. A pilot would have to fly directly into the alien flagship through one of the openings created by the shield failures. It would be a one-way mission. "I'll do it," came a voice over the radio. It was Captain Williams, calling from her ground position. "Kate, you don't have a plane," Mary pointed out. "I do now," Kate replied. "Tony's been working on something special." In Detroit, Tony Martinez had been building what he called his masterpiece. It was not really a fighter jet anymore. It was a missile with a cockpit, designed to carry one person and one nuclear warhead directly into the heart of an enemy ship. "This thing will probably fall apart before it reaches orbit," Tony warned Kate as she climbed into the cockpit. "Then I better fly fast," Kate replied. The modified aircraft launched from a hidden runway, its engine screaming as it climbed toward the alien flagship. Around it, the remaining human fighters provided cover, drawing fire away from Kate's desperate mission. Admiral Kethvalium saw the single human aircraft approaching his ship and ordered all weapons to target it. But the other human fighters threw themselves between the flagship and the lone attacker, sacrificing themselves to protect Kate's mission. Lieutenant Claire Brooks flew her damaged fighter directly into the path of an alien energy beam, taking the hit meant for Kate. Her last radio transmission was simple: "Tell my father we didn't give up." Danny Park and Sarah Kim followed her example, using their aircraft as shields. One by one, the human pilots gave their lives to protect Kate's mission. Kate's strange aircraft was falling apart as it approached the alien flagship. The engines were overheating, the hull was cracking, and the controls were barely responding. But she was close enough now. "This is for Earth," Kate said quietly as she flew directly into the opening in the alien ship's hull. The nuclear explosion lit up the sky like a second sun. The alien flagship, which had seemed invincible just hours before, broke apart in a chain reaction that spread through its entire structure. Admiral Kethvalium had just enough time to send one final message before his ship was destroyed. Impossible. These humans should not have been able to. The explosion of the flagship sent shockwaves through the alien fleet, both physical and psychological. The other alien ships, seeing their mighty commander defeated by primitive humans, began to retreat toward deep space bait. But the humans were not finished with them yet. Dr. Patterson's satellite network had one more surprise waiting for the fleeing aliens: the hidden weapons platforms that had been disguised as space debris activated all at once, surrounding the alien fleet with a web of modified human technology. The aliens found themselves trapped between Earth and a barrier of jury-rigged weapons that should not have existed. For the first time in their 3,000-year history, the Zephyrian Empire faced the possibility of complete defeat at the hands of a species they had considered beneath notice and in their hidden command centers around Earth. The humans prepared for the final phase of their impossible victory. The remaining alien ships floated in space, trapped between Earth and the human weapon platforms. With their flagship destroyed and their admiral dead, The Zephyrian fleet was in chaos. Ships that had never known defeat were now damaged and desperate. Commander Velanara, now the highest-ranking officer left alive, tried to understand what had happened. His species had conquered dozens of worlds across the galaxy. They had advanced technology, superior weapons, and thousands of years of military experience. Yet somehow, a primitive species that could barely leave its own planet had defeated them. All ships, maintain position, Velanara commanded. Do not attempt to break through the human weapon grid. The alien commander had learned to respect human creativity. Every time the Zephyrians had tried something predictable, the humans had found a way to counter it. He was not going to risk more lives by underestimating them again. On Earth, General Ryan Brooks stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed command station orbiting the planet. The station had been built in secret, using parts from the International Space Station and materials launched by modified rockets. It should not have been possible to build it so quickly, but humans had a talent for doing impossible things when their survival was at stake. General Brooks, came a voice over the radio. This is Dr. Patterson. We're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. Put it through, General Brooks replied. The voice that came through the speakers was different from the arrogant tone they had heard in the original ultimatum. This alien sounded tired and defeated. Human Military Command, the voice said. This is Commander Velanara of the Zephyrian fleet. We request permission to negotiate. General Brooks looked around at his international team. Colonel Pavel Volkov gave a slight nod. General Liu Wei crossed his arms but did not object. Admiral James Hughes simply waited for the general's decision. Commander Vonada, General Brooks said, You invaded our system and threatened to destroy our world. Why should we negotiate with you? There was a long pause before the alien replied. Because we have learned that we underestimated your species. We came here expecting to find a weak, divided people who would surrender without a fight. Instead, we found something we had never encountered before. And what's that? Asked General Brooks. Unity in the face of extinction, Velanara said. Creativity born from desperation. Warriors who fight not for conquest, but for survival. We have conquered many worlds, General Brooks, but we have never faced anything like humanity. Dr. Amy Foster was listening to the conversation from her laboratory. She had been studying the captured alien technology and had made some interesting discoveries. General, Amy's voice came over the internal radio. I've been analyzing their equipment. Their technology is more advanced than ours, but it's also more limited. They build things to work in predictable ways. They don't seem to understand the concept of improvisation. This explained why the human modifications had been so effective. The aliens had designed their shields and weapons to counter known threats, but humans had created unknown threats, using primitive technology in ways that no advanced civilization would consider. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison was coordinating the cleanup and recovery operations around Earth. The battle had lasted only 6 hours, but the damage was significant. Several cities had been hit by debris from destroyed alien ships. Many human aircraft and naval vessels had been lost, but they had won. Against impossible odds, with primitive weapons and desperate tactics, humanity had defeated one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. Jake, came Dr. Lisa Grant's voice over the radio. We're getting reports from around the world. The resistance cells are securing alien crash sites and recovering their technology. This was another surprise for the aliens. Instead of celebrating their victory, the humans were immediately working to learn from their enemies. They were studying alien technology, not to copy it, but to understand it and improve upon it in his modified aircraft high above Earth. Marcus Lee was using his hacking skills to monitor alien communications. The teenager had proven that age meant nothing when survival was at stake. Command, this is Tech Team, Marcus reported. The aliens are calling for reinforcements, but it sounds like their home government is not happy about what happened here. General Brooks was not surprised. The Zephyrian Empire had probably never lost a fleet to a primitive species before. This defeat would force them to reconsider everything they thought they knew about warfare. "Commander Venata," General Brooks said, returning to the negotiation. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Complete withdrawal from your system," the alien commander replied immediately. "We will leave and never return. In exchange, we ask only for safe passage for our remaining ships. That's it," asked General Brooks. "No demands, no threats." General Velinara said, "We came here with 47 ships. You have destroyed or disabled 31 of them. Our weapons, which have conquered a dozen worlds, proved useless against your improvised defenses. Our shields, which we thought were impenetrable, were defeated by modifications to your primitive research equipment." The alien paused before continuing. "We have learned that technological superiority means nothing against a species that refuses to accept defeat. Humanity is dangerous not because of what you have, but because of what you can become when threatened." Dr. Foster was still studying the alien technology when she made another discovery. "General," she called over the radio, "their ships use a form of faster-than-light travel that we don't understand yet. But their computers contain star maps showing the locations of dozens of other alien civilizations. This information was valuable beyond measure." Humanity now knew they were not alone in the universe, and they had a map showing where their neighbors lived. "Commander Venata," General Brooks said, "we accept your proposal. You may leave our system, but we want something in addition to your withdrawal." "What do you require?" the alien asked. "Information," General Brooks replied. "We want to know about the other species in this galaxy. We want to understand the political situation beyond our solar system, and we want to know if there are other threats we should prepare for." The alien was quiet for a long moment. "You intend to expand beyond your world?" Eventually, General Brooks confirmed. "Humanity has learned that hiding on one planet makes us vulnerable. We need to spread out among the stars. That will make you a threat to other species," Velinara pointed out. "Only if they threaten us first," General Brooks replied. "We don't want to conquer anyone. We just want to survive and grow. But after today, we know we can defend ourselves if necessary." The negotiation continued for several hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The aliens provided detailed information about the galaxy's political structure, the locations of major civilizations, and the technologies needed for interstellar travel. In return, humanity allowed the surviving alien ships to leave Earth's solar system, but the Zephyrians were required to send a message to their government and other species in the galaxy. Humanity was no longer a primitive, helpless species. They were a force to be respected. 6 months later, Major Claire Brooks stood on the observation deck of humanity's first interstellar vessel. The ship had been built using a combination of human engineering and captured alien technology. It was not the most advanced ship in the galaxy, but it was uniquely human in its design and capabilities. Claire had survived the battle with severe injuries, but she had recovered and been promoted to lead the new Space Defense Corps. Her team included pilots and engineers from every nation on Earth, working together as one species. "Major Brooks," came a voice over the intercom, "we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They want to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth." Claire smiled as she looked out at the stars. The aliens had come to Earth expecting to find a weak, divided species that would either flee or surrender. Instead, they had awakened something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. Humanity had learned that their greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons. It was their ability to unite when faced with extinction, to find creative solutions to impossible problems, and to never give up hope. The aliens had believed that humanity would ignore the call to greatness when faced with overwhelming odds. Instead, they had discovered that when humans storm the skies, no force in the universe can stand against them. As Claire watched Earth grow smaller behind them, She knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity was taking its first steps into a larger universe, and they would meet whatever challenges awaited them with the same courage and creativity that had saved their world. The stars were calling, and humanity was finally ready to answer.